Wild beasts and gladiators fought for days in the packed arena. Seduced, the people voted him all the power he asked for. The Roman Senate then stunned everyone. In 27 BC, they allowed Octavian what they had denied Caesar, the constitutional right to absolute power for life. Octavian took the name Augustus, the sacred one. Rome, once a bastion of open government, had willingly become an empire, ruled by a single man. Octavian Augustus had become the Roman Empire's first emperor. "2,000 years later, Benito Mussolini, Rome's last fascist dictator, styled himself on Rome's first emperor in revealing ways. Like Augustus, Mussolini seized power by force. Like Mussolini, Augustus forced a consensus through intimidation. But for the vast majority of people in the Roman Empire, that didn't matter. For them, Augustus was a savior. He offered the peace and stability they had craved for nearly a century. From the Atlantic to the Euphrates, from Spain to Syria, people were free to think about something other than war. It was the Pax Romana, Rome's golden age, the longest period of peace Europe has ever known. Yet the architect of peace would never enjoy his own triumph. For Augustus was obsessed by a question that plagued all Roman emperors. What would happen in Rome when he died? The dilemma of dynastic succession would haunt Augustus for the rest of his life. His marriage to Livia had produced no male heirs. The burden of producing one fell on his young daughter, Julia. Augustus carefully selected her partners. Julia was married first to her cousin, Marcellus, but he died tragically at the age of 19. She was then married to Marcus Agrippa, her father's military advisor. He was 30 years older than her. He died too. Finally, Julia was paired with Tiberius, her own stepbrother. The only thing they shared was a mutual dislike for each other's company. Poor Julia was overwhelmed by the arranged marriages. Inevitably, she looked elsewhere for intimacy. Rome's gossip mongers had a field day.
His daughter was shameless beyond imagination. She had been accessible to scores of lovers. The very forum in which her father had proposed a law against adultery she had chosen for her debauchery. She daily resorted to the life of a whore, selling her favors to even unknown lovers. Seneca.
Augustus was trapped. 10 years earlier, he'd passed draconian laws banning adultery, on punishment of exile or death. The emperor was forced to banish his own daughter to an island off the coast of Italy. Julia was never allowed to return to Rome. The pressures of dynastic succession had claimed its first victim. Rome's first emperor eventually died in 14 AD at the age of 76. He'd ruled Rome peacefully for over 40 years.
I restored, I completed, I built, I gave. Augustus.
Augustus had given Rome a sense of pride, stability, and prosperity. Yet he'd failed to provide what every dynasty needs most: a sense of security. Imperial power seized by force could always be lost to force. Insecurity plagued Augustus's successors, and their paranoid delusions would be the undoing of his dynasty. Ironically, the biggest threat came from the Praetorian Guard, the elite troops meant to protect emperors, not kill them. Problems soon surfaced in the reign of Tiberius, Rome's second emperor, who struggled in the shadow of Augustus throughout his reign. In 23 AD, after 9 years on the throne, Tiberius retired to the island of Capri, exhausted by the pressure of power in Rome.
Anyone who holds power is challenged all the time. Tiberius said, holding on to power is like holding on to a wolf by its ears. You know, it's this thing that can come round and bite you at any moment.
Tiberius left Rome in the care of Sejanus, his trusted Praetorian commander. But Sejanus did not want to help the emperor. He wanted to be emperor. And with Tiberius away from Rome, he played on the emperor's paranoia. Sejanus told Tiberius conspiracies existed all over Rome, but they were just a smokescreen to justify the murder of anyone who stood between him and the imperial throne. He even imprisoned the emperor's family. Oblivious, Tiberius made Sejanus his co-consul in 31 AD. The truth finally reached Capri. The emperor acted quickly. He invited Sejanus to the Senate, promising a promotion. But it wasn't a letter of promotion. It was a warrant for his arrest. Sejanus never made it to trial. His treachery highlighted a fundamental problem in imperial Rome. Everyone knew that the Praetorian Guard watched over the emperor. But who watched over the Praetorian Guard? Tiberius responded just in time. Caligula, his successor, wouldn't be so lucky. Rome's third emperor was notoriously brash, particularly towards the Senate. But Caligula is best remembered for another relationship. With his racehorse, Incitatus. The emperor gave the horse a marble house and an ivory bed. He regularly invited the horse to dinner in the imperial palace and even threw huge parties for him. But Caligula topped everything when he recommended his horse be elected consul, the leading magistrate in Rome. To some people, it was more than the whim of a madman.
Say you're sitting in the White House, and as usual, Congress is being difficult. And you want to say, I want to go in front of the American people, and I want as president to demonstrate my contempt for Congress. And how am I going to do that? I'm going to make my dog a congressman. I'm going to say to the American people, I value the Congress and what they have to say as much as I do what my dog says when it barks. So when Caligula made his horse a consul, that's a fantastically clever political insult to the Senate.
Rome's rich and powerful were not so impressed. On the 24th of January, 41 AD, they bribed the Praetorian Guard to murder the emperor. But they wouldn't have killed Caligula if they knew of the horror to come. By the middle of the 1st century AD, Romans thought the worst had passed.